don't put yourself in that position where you're going to buy a property and put yourself under financial strain, because what will happen is you end up selling that property within the 3 or 5 year period, and it's probably that period where it hasn't made money for you.
G'day guys, welcome to the MTDC Lounge. This is a podcast that breaks down everything you need to know about designing and building your ultimate home and what to expect. Whether you're a DIY renovator, a budding developer, or everything in between, we'll dive into the building journey, touching on what to expect, what's next, and how to go about it. We'll hear from a heap of experienced consultants and trades about all aspects. So let's get stuck in. Welcome to the Lounge. G'day guys, and welcome to another episode of the MTDC Lounge. You're here with your host Matt, and if you haven't seen or watched us before, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and be sure to follow to listen to some of the great conversations that we have, such as Eddie from Marvel Invest. How are you, mate?
Very good, mate. Thanks for having me.
Mate, it's been a long press. I've been trying to get you on for so long, and I'm so glad I finally tied you down. Thanks for coming out.
I'll send you the invoice later.
yeah. Well, mate, at the moment, there's a bunch of stuff happening in the industry, in the construction world, in the buying world, all of the stuff that's happening. I couldn't think of a better bloke to ask. You are in the world of investing. You help, I guess, home owners and people who are looking at purchasing houses, make their portfolio better.
Yep.
So please tell us all about Marvel Invest and you know.
Okay. So look, Marvel Invest started about 21 years ago now. So from humble beginnings, good old Western Sydney. And I unfortunately got burnt buying my first property, and it wasn't the best experience. And that's how I sort of got into this particular industry, trying to understand the real estate game a little bit better, and improve those particular first home buyers' experiences, try and smooth it out as best as possible. Fast forward 20 years, I've built an extensive portfolio. I've helped multiple investors, seasoned investors, first home buyers becoming first home investors. And now the landscape's just changed so drastically over the last, in particular, 5 years. I think there's a significant growth. I mean, you could virtually buy any property across Australia, and it's probably performed quite well. My specific role is obviously in the investment space. So you could say a buyer's agent. So you've got buyer's agents that do focus on owner-occupier sort of transactions for clients. Yeah. Mine is more for investors. So it's purely just looking at the numbers, what they look like. It's a black and white sort of decision. And we remove the emotional aspect out of that sort of decision with property, it seems very easy, but we're humans, and we're obviously full of emotions, and we get caught up with it. Yeah. I'll put my hand up for it. I'm trying to build a dream home with you guys now that you're designing. Yep. Financially, it doesn't make sense. There's no probably return on that investment, but I've invested enough to get to that point, right? And that's what I try and sort of cement in people, that we got to take some baby steps. Probably go not go direct to the sort of goal. We're gonna have to go around, invest, build our wealth, and then eventually get to that achievement of your dream family home, if that's what it is. Yeah.
And you see it so often at the moment, and we've had countless guys on the podcast at the moment where they're talking about taking those baby steps, stepping outside of those those hot zones, and maybe taking that way around. You mentioned having like the first homeowners going straight into the investment home, which is almost I dare say the first homeowners that haven't bought a place yet wouldn't even consider like an investment home. So how would you recommend guys like that even start thinking about it?
It's so tricky, because I think the first home buyers grant such a big leg up, but the benefits don't match up for what the actual real estate value is, right? So the average price now across Sydney, because we're originally from Sydney, I moved up 6 years ago, but it's hovering around probably $2 million for probably a generic home. I could say you could still renovate if you really wanted to, but it's not going to get you your dream, right? So even if the bank was able to give you that loan, what people don't realise is the holding costs around that. What are the repayments on that? Even if you get your 10%, even if you get your 20%. And then when you start to look at the numbers, it freaks you out, right? And this is a first home buyer. I do it obviously every day. But just recently I got my brother who's studying at uni to be a teacher, lives at home with mum, doesn't pay minimum board, saves some good money. But even with his 50,000 he had saved, it's not enough to get into the Sydney market. You'd probably get a unit, which is not the recommended asset type I would purchase, because that's what I bought when I first bought. And the problem with units, it's you get caught up with the strata costs, and you can't control things in that landscape. So ideally, I'd like a home, but now with most people, I think we're buying for the sake of buying, and there's just no sort of thought process as to whether it's a house, townhouse, unit, duplex, villa. It's just, I've got to get into the market and keep up, right?
Yeah.
And it's not their dream anyway. So if it's not their dream, well, hold on a sec. Why don't we look at an interstate market, something that's actually affordable, and we get a return on the investment, where it's cash flow positive, or where the repayments are covered by the rent with the expenses, right? That's what I mean by cash flow positive, because people look at that differently.
So they call that rentvesting. Well,
rentvesting. You hit the nail on the head, Yep.
So basically they rent down here, they purchase somewhere super cheap, and then they have a better opportunity of making a cash flow positive, which, given the circumstances that have happened recently over the last week or so, capital gains tax being scrapped, all the bits and pieces are happening. So, correct. I mean, these are big things and big moves for the industry, and I'm glad we're touching on what's important about getting people in the market. Yep. How do you find people mainly kind of engage you, and what are the demographics?
It's funny because you talk about rentvesting, and that conversation I was having probably 10 years ago. Yeah, and people would, what are you talking about? What's rentvesting? It was very foreign. Yeah. Now that's in every conversation. And the reality is if you speak to any accountant or financial planner, obviously you've got to go to those professionals. Normally that encourage you looking at the numbers. That's a perfect play to build your wealth, right? Because your biggest anchor is your actual family home. There's no return on investment. There's no tax benefits there. Obviously that's all changed with the recent budget, but if the investment was cash flow positive, it's not impacted by negative gearing anyway, right? Because it's covering itself. So I think what we're seeing is people are going for their first home. And to answer your question, where they're coming from, it's financial planners, accountants, brokers, mums and dads pushing their kids, listening to podcasts, and just so much more education now, right? And we know that traditionally, if you look at Australia, the whole landscape of the last 30 years, it's performed really well in the real estate space. So naturally, that's the go-to conversation in any barbecue event or any event, to be honest with you. Yeah. They're always talking about real estate. But now what people are finding challenging is buying outside of their scope, right? They're not used to buying something they haven't seen, or where they don't live, or they're unfamiliar with. It's a big step. So it's an emotional process you have to go through, and it's not easy for a first home buyer, let alone first home investor, to overcome those hurdles. So I guess the best way to sort of build that relationship and make it possible for them to understand it is I lead the front, right? So I'd look at investments myself, and if the deal works for me, I'd share that with my client. So literally they can see in my bank statement what the rent is, what the expenses are, share that with them to then get them to have confidence around that particular transaction. Yes, it is going to generate a sale, so to speak, but I've got skin in the game because I want to make money. Yeah. And I want it to be a fruitful investment, right? So if I'm sharing that experience with them, that gives that person a lot of confidence. But it's ironic, we just got some interesting stuff happening in states and territories that I wouldn't have thought of, 5 or 10 years ago. And it's changing drastically, but the conversations are very common now. Yeah. Very common.
G'day guys, just quickly, if you're finding this podcast info relevant to you, then I'd like to quickly talk to you about what we do at MT Design Collective. You hear us talk all the time about the importance of solid, detailed home design practices so that you're not left with extra fees, delays, or unexpected costs in building your ultimate home. Here at MTDC, we design homes and provide plans that builders love to build and councils love to approve. If you're looking at a renovation, a new build, or alteration, then we'd love to help you work out the next steps forward. Book a free, no obligation chat with us, and we'll come out to your site, as it's the only way to truly get authentic, no bullshit advice. Link is in the show notes. Okay, back to the show. What would you normally tell your investors or people to come out and see? What do you tell them to keep an eye out first before they even consider purchasing something?
I think a lot of the time say, Haiti, what do you think the best decision is for me?
Yep.
And I'm in a position of trust, obviously, with them to answer that question. And to be honest, the answer is what you're comfortable in doing at the moment. What's your current situation, and what are your lifestyle obligations, and what is it that you want out of the property? Like, I can show you 10 properties, but each 10 of those properties will have a different outcome or a different result or a different performance on that investment. Some are cash flow positive from the get-go if you need cash flow because your lifestyle is quite expensive and you need that extra money coming in. Others are sit and hold strategies where it's a big city, Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, and we can sit and hold, but can you hold? Like the expenses are quite expensive, right? The mortgage is high, the rates are high. So we've got to think of that. And a lot of people don't realise, but until later. So they'd buy their dream home, young couple, then they'll get married, they've got to pay for a wedding, then they'll have children, then you got the cost for kids, then you've got other expenses that come up, health issues come up. All these variables come after the fact you've bought the house, but the house mortgage is already at the maximum capacity of your borrowing capacity, right? So you're leveraged out. So then what happens is people don't hold for 10 years. I always say, rule of thumb, we're getting into the space of any property purchase, you've got to be able to hold it for 7 to 10 years. In that 7 to 10 years, there's going to be ups and downs. No doubt. We're always going to have ups. It's never, everyone talks about the good.
Yeah.
Oh, property is fantastic. I can tell you now, in my own personal experience, it's not.
Yeah.
And this you'll know this firsthand, right? So you buy a project, you got to go for a DA, CDC, deal with council, multiple councils, tradespeople, and the list goes on, right?
Yeah.
No one talks about that often. Everyone talks about, I made 300,000, you can do it easily.
Yeah.
So they all come with this expectation of, I'm just going to buy a property because I'm going to make money. But it's not an overnight occurrence.
No.
I'll probably take that back. Over the last 5 years, it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
But realistically, before that, it was 7 to 10 years. That's the cycle. That's what we need to hold.
Yep.
So if you can't afford it and you can't see, and knowing that you're going to have things in life that are going to cost you, whether it's a wedding or having kids or buying a new car, the average car now is 70,000, 80,000. It's quite expensive, right? If you know all these costs are coming, then don't put yourself in that position where you're going to buy a property and put yourself under financial strain, because what will happen is you end up selling that property within the 3 or 5 year period. And it's probably that period where it hasn't made money for you. Or if it has, it's not enough to obviously get you where you want to be anyway.
Exactly. And then you go back through the cycle. You're looking for another place because whatever you sell it for, there's a chance that other houses are being sold for the same amount or the same increase, if not more.
Correct.
So yeah, and the boom through Sydney and Newcastle are massive. The prices are astronomical in Sydney, and you can watch it. It's almost just starting to creep up further and further. And now because Newcastle is like that city by the beach, and I would dare argue Newcastle's prettier than Sydney. I came from Sydney too, so I'm allowed to say that. But at the end of the day, like I think housing prices are going up. People keep threatening this big bubble pop, but I have yet to see it. Everybody's like, they're bringing more people into the country, and and there's aging families. People are going to continuously look for houses. So what do people do? They're obviously going to start buying new blocks because the capital gains tax are going to start hammering down on the capital gains stuff, and the negative gearing that's taking a hit. So they're going to start looking at buying new blocks and
brand
building
new properties.
Yeah, because the capital gains, as far as we're at the moment, as it stands right now, there's no capital gains on the new property. I'm pretty confident. And
correct. I think they've scratched that. And to be honest, I was just on the phone to the accountant having the meeting about all this stuff now, so I've still got to iron it out. But yeah, it's pretty. There's just not a solution that I see that's going to be resolved. Like I was saying before the podcast, we've got like 97,000 new Australians coming in as of last month, right? But we're constantly hitting 70% of our housing target, constantly. So, and this is what I say to people: if that's a perfect storm for an investor.
Yeah,
we're going to buy something brand new, and people say, "Oh, but brand new, there's it's an inflated market." It depends on the market, right? If you and this is the way I always speak to people. If you've got two tenants that are looking for a property, there's one that's 30 years old and there's one that's brand new, and you can and you've got the application there from the tenant. They're gonna lean towards a new one.
Yeah.
Every day of the week, it's brand new.
There's going to be far less problems
in their eyes, right?
Yeah.
Would hope the builder's good, but but I mean, the idea of that is if it's theirs from the get go and it's brand new, they're likely to stay long term. And if you just look after that tenant and nurture the relationship, and don't be one of those landlords that asks for $20 every week or every month. I think legally you can't anyway, but they'll stay long term and the investment will work. But right now, like there's so much opportunity in in markets that I'm literally looking at, and it was only this week where we're in Victoria, and it's the third largest city in Victoria. And you've got a dual lock, which is a house and granny flat under one roof. I think you've seen these before. It's a registered block for $752,000, right? But in every other state that I've worked in, because I've got two of these particular setups in my portfolio, and they perform great. WA, $1 million. Brisbane, $1 million. Central Coast, $1 million. Newcastle, $1 million. Wollongong, $1 million. For the same type of setup.
Yeah.
We're at $750 in Victoria.
Yeah.
Is it going to stay there at $750? I don't think so. When the rent's $1,000, there's an opportunity for growth. So I'm actively actually looking at that as we speak. And everyone says, oh, why there? And I said, well, everyone's always got an opinion. Honestly, they do.
Yep.
And they'll tell you why not to do certain things. And I always say this, but you've got to do what you're comfortable in doing and follow the path that's going to get you where you want to go.
Yeah.
And if that's the route that you've got to go, whether you've got to buy in Victoria and then come back to New South Wales or wherever you want to end up, then that's the route. Or be comfortable just rentvesting. Yeah. A lot of people have this stigma that they have to own a property and live in it. It's like an Australian entitlement. And if you don't, you're a second grade citizen that, I'm not fit enough to be in that conversation because I don't own it. I don't live in my home I own. And that's probably 99% of the challenges I have with people. They want to own their own home so they can, change the frames on the walls and things like that. Where realistically, if you take away the owner occ, in some cases, clients can buy anywhere between 3 to 2 properties if they're the right properties, sometimes more, in exchange for that one asset they have. And the way I look at it is you're spreading your eggs, right, in different markets. There's markets all across the country. Thousands of micro markets. You can dive in and get so much data and literally go to town with graphs and all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, you've got to put the plan out and pull the trigger and take some action in what you're doing. Yeah. Right? And if you're comfortable in removing that asset, which is on average, I think the mortgages are sitting at about $1 million. About
that.
Right? That's on average. And you wipe that debt and all of a sudden you buy 2 or 3 investments that are cash flow positive, or rather than paying your $5,000 a month for the mortgage repayments, you're making, let's say, $2,000 a month or more in some cases.
And all you're doing, let's say, and instead, because you've got multiple assets or multiple investments, they're all being rented out. Yourself is renting, and then potentially, and then you're getting that rental income from those properties that are paying for themselves while you're just doing your thing.
Correct. So, like, for example, I just purchased a property in Northern Territory. And everyone said, oh, you're over there. And I said, well, it's the last capital city that's actually affordable, to be honest with you. Right? So I bought a dual lock that's $550, and we spoke about it. I keep talking about it this morning. Right? So it's $550.
Yep.
The rent's $950 a week.
Yep.
Got a guaranteed rent on it for 20 years. It's 10 years plus 5 plus 5.
Is that the $950 for both of them? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that comes in. Yep. So I literally settled on this only 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, okay.
So the rates went up. So I don't know if it's adjusted yet, but my repayments were $2,574, interest only for 2 years. Right? That's my mortgage repayment. So I think the debt's about $412,000.
Yeah.
Now, the rent that comes in is about 40, let's call it 50,000. Okay. And then we've got the expenses of the maintenance, so strata and all the rest of it, right? It's about 12,000. So the mortgage plus the costs, right, take away from my rental income, I'm left with about $582 a month clear in my pocket. Right, that's net at the moment.
Yeah.
Right. So what I say to clients, I say, okay, so if that costs us $550, one house is 1.1 on average. You can potentially buy 2 of these, right?
Yeah.
Right. This is just a generic example. I'm just plucking out of the air, but it's actually my investment I'm picking on, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we're going to be making 580 times the 2. We're over $1,100 a month.
Yep.
Right. Let's say you rent out a granny flat. I don't know what a granny flat's going up here. It's probably $500 a week.
About 500. Yeah, $600.
So $2,000.
Yeah.
$2,000 a month.
Yeah.
It pays half the rent, right? So essentially, you're freeing up your cash flow to then support your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's what people want more of.
Yeah.
They're not interested in owning the big home because they know it's unrealistic. Like our income versus what the properties are worth now, it's like 3 times it was 30 years ago.
With dual incomes.
With dual incomes, right?
Yeah.
This is the problem. right? People, and the other issue I have is the young generation coming through asking for advice is they're dictated a lot by their parents. Like my parents migrated overseas. My grandfather said, no, you've got to work hard, go to university, buy a house, and then just pay it off. If I spoke about investing, one side of the family would be quite reluctant. They're not, they're risk averse. The other side would say, go for it. But a lot of families, we don't invest. We work hard, pay off our house. That strategy worked probably 30 years ago because the ratio was a lot better. Now, it doesn't work. You've got 2 income earners, and I've got like some high income earners, and then I've got some real educated people. But the rent we're paying and the lifestyle, just to live, there's no chance for them to save enough for a deposit for their home. I've got a kid. When I met this client, he was 21 at the time, and he had a bit of savings, and he was going to get into the Brisbane market. And the home and land pack at the time was about 422,000. And I still remember the driver's license. It was a P plate and all the rest of it. Anyway, he reached out only recently. He said, mate, I want to get into the property market. What do you think? And I said, we'll explore this option. This is what I think we should do. He saved up a little bit more. So he doubled his savings. So he was all excited about it because he's worked really hard. And then we looked at the property prices. It's still not enough. So he had 70,000 saved. So over 5 years, he saved up 40,000. But in 5 years,
made a massive effort. That's a huge effort.
Huge effort, right? Yeah. But property prices have tripled that. So he's like, I'm still short. So the disappointment, he just said, look, I'm virtually going to bury my head in the sand, right? Not worry about it. But I said, look, if we can get you into a market, let's pull the trigger. Because at least we're in, and let that work, right? As opposed to leave it for another 5 years. Because I said, you don't want to ask me what that Brisbane property is worth now. Like it literally was 880,000. It doubled in that 5 year period. So okay, so if I bought that, I would have made 400. Okay, you would have made 400,000. But you didn't buy, and you saved 40,000.
Don't live in the past. That's right. Will break your heart.
But it's like the penny, I guess, drops when you're actually close to taking an opportunity. You pull it back. You review it 4 or 5 years later, and we all have this
hindsight, right?
We all have this little story. We should have, we didn't, we could have, and that's why action is a big thing. You just got to do it, and it's scary. And this is what I say to everyone: it is scary always buying a property, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's always scary, but it's scarier not buying. At the rate we're going, and the way things go up in Australia is ridiculous. And to be honest, I think we're going to get busier because now we're going to see a shift where people are going to buy brand new, and everyone's going to.
Estates are going to start taking off. They're going to start opening up everywhere because I know there's a place out of Muswellbrook in particular. The estate's been sitting empty for almost 10 years almost, and I reckon now because they've been trying to flog these blocks off. It's an old mining town, but I reckon. It's an hour and a half out of Newcastle now. So, at the end of the day, I think places like the estates and knockdown rebuilds as well, I think that's going to start becoming a thing. Do you think the capital gains tax and all of the negative gearing are going to affect the new builds with the granny flats? I haven't been able to read anything on that. And I think before you answer that one, I think the granny flats are a great move. There are a bunch of mobs at the moment in Newcastle, Sydney, all the guys at the moment who are doing the granny flats. And I really do think that they're going to start taking off as well because the drive to have these little houses for people, particularly around the unis and all the city centres, I think it's a strong question. How much will the capital gains and negative gearing affect the granny flats and that shared living space?
Look, I think for me to answer it properly, I'm probably too early to give you a direct sort of accurate answer. But this is what I always say: is we need to uplift whatever property we have. Right. So I've even said to my clients that bought 10 years ago. They've got equity. I said, look, capital gain is only relevant if you sell, right? Because they're going to tax you on the gain. My rule is don't sell unless you really, really have to. Financially, you're straining. So I tend to just refinance and utilize the equity and go again. But what we're finding is the banks are getting tougher with their borrowing capacities as well, right? So the easiest grab is, okay, if your block's big enough and you qualify for a granny flat, let's do a granny flat. Because what's the average granny flat? 200,000 for a decent, like that's an average one.
That's fair enough.
Right. So 200, but they're renting out for 500. Let's say I'm wrong and let's go to 400. Still a great return. Still 13%. Like it's phenomenal. A lot of people are shifting I guess, their mindset to say, well, hold on, we've got this investment. It's a house. It was good 10 years ago, but we can fit a granny flat. And it does impact the existing house with the tenant there already.
Not enough, I would argue, though.
Look, at the end of the day, you're losing maybe 10 or 20 bucks for the inconvenience of the yard.
Yeah.
But you're gaining anyway. You still come out net positive. So I guess there's so many ways to skin a cat in the property space.
Yeah.
But what I find is it does get complicated. I think the banks are changing the policies. The rates are scaring people. And people get caught up with a lot of this, the federal budgets and the amount of clients that have spoken to me about it but don't really understand. I said, how do you understand it when I still struggle?
Yeah.
And they're trying to educate me, and no one's knowing. But we're finding reasons to not do something.
Yeah.
And I feel like with property investing, most people, and even including me, will do that. We'll find reasons not to do. Oh no, not now. I'm studying. Oh no, I'm going to get married this year. I'm having kids. No, not now. I've got to renovate my bathroom. So at the moment I can't. There's always reasons why you can't, right? And you'll find them if you look hard enough.
Yeah.
But the ones that just don't think, look at the numbers. It works. Oh, right. Is it producing that? Yep. This is what I've done. Yep. Pull the trigger. No questions asked. They don't realize it, but they've taken action so quickly and then reap the rewards later. And it's only until when they want to upgrade the car or renovate the house, they've got equity built up. And if they didn't pull the trigger then, they probably wouldn't have got to buy the car or renovate the home, right? So the money's working. And if it's not working, what's it doing? Like a lot of people say, oh, okay, I'll pay off my house. That's your goal? Pay it off. Okay. So pay it off.
Then what?
And then what? You still need money to live. And unfortunately, those living costs are going higher and higher by the week, by the day. So what I encourage everyone is, if there's equity available, utilize it to make it work for you.
Okay.
And it's not one specific investment. There's literally, we were talking about before, but there's 9,000 buyers agents. Utilize them. Like they're doing it every day.
Yeah.
5-6 years ago, there was 200.
Yeah.
Now there's buyers agents everywhere. Find someone that you can have a conversation with and you're on the same page, right? Everyone's got different personalities. There's no right or wrong, but at least they're guiding you to find what the brief is, right? That's what I encourage people to do. To get to the point where, you're going to have multiple investments. I used to think the more you get, the better it is. But it's actually not right. It's just finding the right ones that work for you. Like if I look at my portfolio, it's extensive. It's virtually a full-time job just trying to manage everything, right? But if I cut half or more than half and pick the right assets again, I'd probably get a better outcome in terms of what I'm trying to find, and that's cash flow at the moment. Right, so that's not the only strategy. There's a bit of growth there as well, but more doesn't mean better. It's just the right one is what we need to try and identify.
Yeah, and coming from somebody who, talking to people who want to start looking at things like this, they do start to tend to ask the questions. What can we do with the block later on down the track? The amount of times that we hear that, mum's coming in to move in with me. Like these are the things. We literally have a couple. We've worked with them for the last 3 years. Lake Mac job, flood prone area, RU2 zone. They've got mum coming in to live with them, and they're like, well, we want to make a bigger house, but building the bigger house is going to cost us $700,000 and $850,000. And then they're like, well, we'll just go and shift somewhere else into Lake Macquarie where it's like a bigger house and can fit everybody, but they're going to be paying $1.5 million. And then all of a sudden, they're knocking on my door and like, hey, Matty, like, let's do some dual lock stuff where we've turned doing a full house, and then we're attaching the existing house to the new house, and then now it's a dual lock that's attached, and it's a whole rigmarole. But I mean, just by doing that and turning the RU2 block with a rural block, it's changed the game for them. It's going to increase their value of the property by quite a substantial amount, and they're going to make the house that's currently on there, it's quite cottagey, and they're going to make it fresh and new. All of a sudden, they've just boosted the value of that property, and I think we're going to see more of it, particularly with the local rules around Lake Mac and the building within a certain distance of the main train lines. Have you had a run in with any of that at the moment?
I think you mentioned it. in terms of the rezoning and making the process a little bit easier.
Yeah. So like basically the rule is around these hubs or these 15-minute cities, they're giving the opportunity, particularly in Lake Macquarie and Newcastle, they're giving the opportunity to start building townhouses on places like R2 zones, and R3 is normally set for townhouses, but now, kind of like Newcastle Council, they've now mixed the allowance to have the townhouses and the dulux and stuff like that. So I think with all the rules and the changes, I guess, in the market and things like that, it's just going to make things they're going to be more expensive, and I think they're going to change a lot of things for, I guess, landlords and developers. But at the end of the day, it's going to give people more of a drive to think build new and then try and keep old.
I think people definitely have that mindset, and that's good that you have that client, but most people find it too hard. Yeah. It's all in the hard basket. And what I say to people, it's, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? Everyone would be investing because it's easy. It's not. It's stressful. You've got to, the banks are going to ask, or your broker or your bank's going to ask you for paperwork left, right and centre. If you take too long, bank, you've got to go again because it's outdated. Then your architect's got to, amend plans. You obviously got a pipeline, then you've got to deal with all the councils. It's a process, but people want it yesterday.
Yeah, always.
There's no patience, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're willing to pay for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, we're just patient and we work with what we got, or have a look at the actual scenario. Because I get the question all the time, what should I do? And what I tell them, just go home. This is the investment I presented. This is what you want. This is where you currently are. So if you've got a few options, just write them down. And then go A, B, C, and just say what works for you. If the investment doesn't work, scratch it. Yeah, cool. That's what you want to do it. Oh, but don't you want the investment? It's not up to me. I know what I'm doing. Yep. I'm helping you with investment, but you've got, your lifestyle here. Yeah, you've got your family, whether it's in Sydney or Brisbane, wherever you are. That's what you want to do it. But the reality is the numbers say otherwise. Yeah, and when you involve emotions and you mix it up, it becomes murky, and that's where, obviously, the right decision isn't made, and you realise later on. But ideally, if they're buying an own OC, there should be some uplift in the property.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, there should be some opportunity where in the future you can put a duplex site, or add a granny flat.
Pay attention to the block sizes.
Yeah, there should be some care about it. But the problem is everyone gets caught up with the shiny diamond. It's got the triple garage, it's got the manicured gardens and the sauna, the pool, and they're falling like, okay, I'm buying it. Which is, look, it's great if you've got the money, but for those that are trying to build up to that and go straight to it because they've got the income and the bank says they can lend the money. Yeah. Like the amount of people I've met and said, hey, I've got a pre-approval for 1.5 million. I said, that's fantastic. What's your risk appetite? Yeah. Oh, actually, I don't want to spend that much. No. What is it? Yeah. And then we drop down, and they're like, oh, okay, you're at 700 now. Yeah. We're not in the market where you want to live. Yeah. And then the conversation drifts, right? And then we start talking about investments. Yep. Yeah. And the reality is, a bank's going to give you, they're in the business of making money, to lend you money to make money, right? Yeah. So they're going to push it as much as they can. But the clients, we take, right? Because it's there and it's offered. Yeah. I'm sure, going back to school days, we'll talk about school, but, the Dolomite account. I still remember when I finished school.
I remember Dolomite.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? I still remember when I finished school. Yeah. Would have been 18. I bought my first house. I got a letter from the bank, CBA. Yeah. Credit card. Apply. Straight away.
Yeah, of course you did.
18, right? Yeah. Thankfully, my story educated a bit more as to not, don't touch credit cards, blah, blah, blah. We're going to save up. And I was a bit old school in that sense, and that worked out. But there's about 70% of us that just don't know.
I didn't. I signed up for that 18. I got it when I was 18 and I signed up for it. It was the quickest $1,000 I ever spent.
It is crazy, right?
It was wild.
And even with car loans, same thing. Like I said to you earlier, an average car is 70,000. Like a Mazda, I think someone said to me, a Mazda's 70,000, Eddie. Yeah. So what's 90 to 70? Yeah. I'm like, well, it's 20 grand difference, but I get your point here. Yeah. But I'm like, so many young people don't want to drive a standard car that's got a lot of kilometers for now. Yeah. And do the hard yards and just save up, get through uni or go to work or do 2 jobs and just maintain that. Instead, we've got to go get a car loan, and then you're just on the back foot from the get-go. Straight away. Yeah. So, fast forward, your 20s, you hit 30, you're struggling. You're uphill.
You've just gone. You finally finished paying off your car, but you're on the back foot with the money on all.
Well, you got your uni, your HECS debts as well. Yeah, come through.
Yeah,
Like people don't know what they're doing. So they'll do 3 or 4 courses and they're just, accumulating HECS debt, which I've seen it over and over. I'm like, okay, and it's true, right? I'm older now and sometimes I wonder, okay, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Should I shift and do something else, right?
Yeah.
That mindset at 18, of course it's going to happen. So it's a brilliant business model from a university point. There's so many options for them, and it's basically
keep paying money.
Get paid money, right? So it's a tricky one to navigate. I think Australia's shifting and changing, and I think we're going to see a great deal of people either leaving the idea of buying their family home initially, and they're realising that, which is kind of a sad moment for Australia, to be honest. But in saying that, there's still opportunities outside of where they live. The highly populated cities, yes, they're beautiful and nice, but reality is we can't afford to live there. We need to move out.
Yeah.
And you need to come to terms with it. Because if you don't, it's fine. You'll be stuck in that rat race and you'll just keep going through the motions.
Yeah.
Like I literally just saw a vet for a puppy I got down at Dungog. So he's obviously a vet himself, and he's from Sydney.
Yep.
Oh, why'd you move out? Couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
Very simple. Like every second or third person where I meet, they're coming out of Sydney. And it's common, right? South, north, they're moving left, right and centre.
It's too many people down there.
Yeah.
It's flat out. I get anxiety jumping on the M1. There's just so many people down there.
The people is one thing. I think it's infrastructure and population that just doesn't support it.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you look at the numbers, right, let's say it's 95,000, just rounding up. They're coming in last month. When you're overseas and you're talking about migrating to a different country, let's talk about Australia. The only city you really know, it's Sydney.
Yeah.
Maybe Melbourne.
Yeah.
And maybe Brisbane now because of the Olympics. But before that, it was always just Sydney.
Yeah.
So we get the bulk of them first. Once they find their feet, then they'll drift off into other cities.
Yeah.
Right, but the first one, Sydney, that's why it's so dense and compact. And it's obviously quite expensive.
There's so much work out there too, and particularly for like the migrants and things like that, they're going to find jobs in those spaces. So
correct,
it is, and I get it. And so real world examples and things like that. Let's say you've got a client, they've got a house, it's newly built or whatever have you. They've got, they've got 900 grand owing on it. They found out it is worth, let's call it 1.5. What would that client, or what would you offer that person to start considering? Because we know from earlier podcasts and finance guys that we've spoken to before that we can borrow up to 80% of the equity. What would you suggest that person or anybody else, what would you suggest they do, or the next steps that they take to start looking at investing and moving on to a different block?
Depending on the family scenario, that's a very similar scenario to a client of mine this morning, actually. So I think I mentioned it this morning in the networking meeting we had. But there was a debt that needed to be paid with the ATO. I think it was about 60 or 50,000. The repayments on that's about 2,500, right, just for that. So if we can consolidate that, right, so we remove that expense. Yes, the home loan goes up, but obviously it's over a 30-year term, so the cash flow improves. And then there was a little bit of money left over. So it was about, I think, 120, 130, 110, roughly. You got to play with that, right? That's your budget. That's all we got to spend to purchase an investment. So when you look at it, yes, we would maybe like a better investment, but if that's all we can afford, that's all we have to stick to. And if it's not something you really want to do, then we don't do it. But if that's a scenario, I would every day of the week consider Northern Territory, the one I bought, because 550 is probably the most affordable investment I've got at the moment. And it's giving you a return of nearly 950 a week. Like you can't fault that sort of cash flow. If you're making 600 a month or close to, that's going to beat most other investments, and then that's going to free up some more money for you to spend, right? And it's still going to grow naturally as well over time. So it's not like it's not growing. Even if you're performing at 6 or 7%, still 300,000 for the next 10 years in capital growth, right? Yeah. So if you get these little gems everywhere, they'll do their work. But the best thing about it is you can hold it for 10 years comfortably. You're not stressing about, how am I going to get a second job to make the repayments for that, because it's too expensive. The rent doesn't cover the debt. Yeah. Right? I've got so many examples in my portfolio like that where I bought, 2014, so 10 years ago, in a town called Junee, near Wagga Wagga. Yeah. And I still remember negotiating. It was about it was 127,000. It was 1,200 square block, and the rent was at the time about 280 per week. I was like, this is fantastic. 10% return nearly. All right, I'm going to buy 10 of these. That was my strategy. All right, I bought it. It was affordable. Obviously, an older home, you're going to have constant maintenance issues, right? So by the time you looked at it, you're like, okay, well, you're making the money, but you're also spending a lot because it's an older home. But there's uplift there. You can put a house at the back, a granny flat. There's definitely uplift. But the bank valuated that 450,000, 480,000.
Yeah, nice.
And everyone said, "Oh, what's out there?" I said, "Not much. There's actually not much. It's 20 minutes from Wagga, which is a big regional hub. There's obviously a private jail there, and there's some other key infrastructure points, an abattoir. But the rent at the moment is about 430 a week, right on that little investment, and it's valued at 450. So it's done what it needed to do, and the 130 was manageable for me at the time 10 years ago.
Yeah,
you know, and people overcomplicate where they're buying because they're trying to compare themselves to someone else's portfolio and says, "Oh no, but they bought here, so I should buy here." It's okay, but their finances are very different to yours. They've got 3 kids. Yeah, you've got 6.
Yeah,
you know, you've got to be realistic with your own scenario and just play with that. Don't try and keep up with the Joneses, and that's the common, I think, issue people have. And if you can't do it, it's okay. You're not a failure. You're trying to grow your wealth by utilizing the equity you have available. And if you can do that, well, you got a chance to improve that, right? But the answer is not to do anything, because I think the people that don't do anything miss out on plenty of opportunities.
I mean, we've both come from Mount Druitt. We've both been brought up around that area.
Mount Druitt, I'm from Riddy Hill.
Hey, I was plumping actually. I was plumping, but at the end of the day, like it's a very hard place to grow up down that part of Western Sydney, and I guess you would be brought up and you understand the need to drive and build your own portfolio from scratch. Yep. There are going to be people out there who are listening and watching today. What are your first steps that you took that you can encourage these guys to start looking, other than obviously buying these small houses and staying out? Like, what are the steps that really made a difference for you to make these bigger leaps?
I think surround yourselves with the people that can help you get there. Right. So there's 9,000 buyers agents. I always say to clients, I said, look, if you're speaking to 5 buyers, go speak to them. Just ask the question, how many properties have they transacted or owned themselves? Have they done it, or they never bought a property before, right? Listen to people that achieved your goal, right? There's many architects out there. There's many buyers agents out there. It's just about familiarizing yourselves with their goals that they've achieved. And if it's in line with what you want to do, then go with it, right? And obviously the personality is a big thing, because you're dealing with them all the time. Buyer's agent, broker, accountant, financial planner, builder, architect. You just got to have that team around you, because that's what's going to accelerate opportunities that come in front of you, and then push. Obviously, there's opportunities on you, which then puts you in a position whether you say yeah or nay, right? But I guess that's one big aspect. I think that's really important. And the second one is learn from what you've seen in the past. Learn from your parents, learn from your grandparents. Their mistakes is really important on how you pivot out of doing something different. Right? And if you just look in your own backyard and say, all right, okay, they've done it for 30 years, they've slogged it out, and they're in a position where you don't want to be, because you want more for yourself, or you just want to be in a different area, or whatever you want to achieve, right? Just pivot and do it. Right, because you can sulk about it and not do it, or you can do something about it. Like you only live once, right? So take the risk, but be calculated with the risk, and then find that team, and then make those moves with the obviously calculated decisions with the advice of those parties, and just make sure that if you're for property, then obviously utilize the people that are property, right? Because there'll be people that are in that particular space that don't really have an ambition around property, and won't really invest themselves, so they're not going to give you advice around property. But if you're adamant about, I'm all property, I love property, that's not, Joe Blow down the road's cup of tea, then, don't utilize their opinion or jump in, put them in your team, so to speak.
Yeah, we've had countless people on here saying, some strategies are shares and EFTs, and we've got people who are property, and some are savers, and so there's a whole plethora of people that will do whatever they want to do. But like I tend to err across to the property space because I enjoy it. I think it's a great way to do it. Do you find that a lot of your clients are becoming that older generation, or do you find that a lot of the younger ones are starting to come through now?
I think the young ones are coming through. It's funny getting older when I think I had a client retire. They bought a property with me when I was probably 19, 18. So what's that, going back over 20 years ago now. But their sons were looking at buying their first home buyers. Hey, Eddie, we bought through you. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. You know, their son's ready to buy an investment. I'm like, oh, wow. So I think there's a bit of both. I think people that have equity in a position where they want to now help their kids. Yeah. Not so much put them forward where they're capable, independent, just purely for the fact that I think the living costs are just too high, to be honest with you. Expensive. Like I've got a few kids that are younger generation. They do the right things. They tick every box you can think of. You know, don't go out as much, limited spending, make their own lunches, just little things, right? Live at home, don't pay much board, but their income's just not where it needs to be. But they've been to university, got educated, right? They're working for big firms. It's just not enough, right? We've got to. Do you work 2 or 3 jobs to fast track it? Maybe, but then tax hits you there. So I think a lot of the times we're utilising grandparents, parents, their equity to help the kids, the younger generation. That's a scary thing because obviously that's a complete risk for them as well. They're not open-minded in that sense. What theirs is theirs. They've worked so hard. Why am I helping someone else? You can do it yourself. But they don't realise that the landscape's changed drastically.
So there's a few things that I want to kind of close out on. So the strategies, and we talk about strategies on the podcast all the time. And I guess there's the buy old, make new, flip, and then there's the buy new PPR or personal private residence, or I guess there's the investing space. Do you think it'd be, in your opinion, and my opinion is always going to be different to yours, but because it's the industry, but do you think people should be buying old, probably not so much anymore, and making new to sell for profit, or do you think there's a better way to invest the money, i.e. buying new or building a new granny flat or something like that and investing that space? Or do you like, how do you feel that people should kind of navigate, I guess, the steps through this? Because understanding that a renovation or a decent sized renovation, particularly for a growing family, they're faced with two things. They're either going to sell up, go and buy something new, or they're going to renovate their place. Correct. Yeah. Now, throughout the conversation, we've said, hey, if you're going to renovate, or if you've got the money there in the equity to renovate, but you're looking like you're going to spend $300,000 on it, you're almost, from what you've said, you're almost in a better position to say, well, actually, I'm just going to go and invest this into a place out of the Northern Territory and make more money and then renovate later. It's like, what are the avenues and what are the recommendations? I get everybody's circumstances are different. I understand that, but where do you see, I guess, the next couple of years or even the next year, even the investments and the wealth will grow the most?
I think personalities make a big difference, right? So those 3 scenarios, I think they're all fantastic. But I would try and gauge what the client's risk appetite is, right? And most people will find it hard to renovate a house because they're not really comfortable living amongst a renovated home, depending on what the structure of the renovation is, or dealing with architects and going through council and all the rest of it. I think they're all challenges, or doing a subdivision on a block to try and uplift the property. Again, I think they're for seasoned investors. For your first home buyers / first time investors, it'd be just a generic investment for now. Because once you get your toes in the water, understand obviously what strata bills are, council rates are, water rates are, insurance, landlord insurance, home contents, just understanding the fundamentals of the investing space, and then running a financial year review on it, seeing your accountant, going through the numbers, understanding it. Okay, this works. I've made a bit of money. Okay. Confidence starts to increase. And then once we get that confidence, then we can diversify into your renos, your uplifts on the developments. What I see happening at the moment is affordability is here. Property prices are here. investments into states are around here. So a lot of people go for those homes. They get knocked back because there's too much demand or it's too expensive. They'll either sit there and do nothing, or they'll come in and have a conversation and say, hey, you know what does an investment look like? And then we just present those investments, right? That's what we're seeing right now because it's brand new. I think, like we said earlier, those big estates, they're going to see a lot of movement. I think the problem is not the actual the buyer itself. I think it's the process of the larger developments. There's just a lot of red tape. And when there's a lot of red tape, it's going to bottleneck projects. When it bottlenecks, we're not just getting enough homes. That's the answer, right? But I'm just a little fish in a big ocean, so I can't sort of make changes there. But that's what I see. Yeah.
Do you think there is a better way, or do you think there is a good way to try and meet the housing demand or the markets that's going to keep increasing? Do you think there's is there a way in terms of design or construction, or I guess in investment and purchasing? Is there a way forward that you think that everybody around could actually take to make this easier?
I think, look, I'm like I said earlier, I'm the guinea pig for most of my little ideas I have, and one of them now, that the home that you're designing for me, I'm not going down the traditional route, right? That's why I've given it to you, because we're looking at just a product that's more seamless. So we'll cut out literally 4 or 5 trades, which when you go further out from suburbia, so if you're not in the main metro areas, it gets harder to find trades, right? So if we can accommodate that with a product that's got a 9-star rating, it can be built within 6 or 8 weeks. That's a game changer, because it's going to be cheaper, it's going to be affordable, it's going to be more efficient, cheaper, and quicker to build. And that wasn't an option because most banks wouldn't lend against that particular product. Now the banks are opening up their doors. So we're going to see a lot of changes where these tiny homes from China are coming. They've been put on the back of homes rather than build a granny flat. Yeah, it's probably something you don't want to hear, but
we've done it. Like we do them at the moment. Like there's a few guys that we look after at the moment, and they have like tiny homes coming through China, and the rules and the regs and the standards that they have to be built to before they even come over to Australia is incredible. But it's like they are all ticked and flicked, and they all have to comply, and they all have to do it. We had a bloke on, James from Gablock a couple of weeks ago, and he's got a system that's fantastic on paper. Like it looks amazing. The blocks and the whole wall profile will be about 400 mil, which is a massive space to take out of a footprint. But if you have a big enough block and you're not looking for anything internally massive, it's a perfect opportunity. Like it's super cheap, quick to put up. You don't need most of the trades. It's one of those things that I think we're going to start seeing these people, in adversity, inventions are just going to go through the roof, right? Yep. And the more expensive things are going to be, people are going to actually make an effort to go, well, hang on a minute, there's got to be a cheaper way to do this.
Correct, yeah.
And I think, and with your system that you're asking for, like, I think it's a great system, and the way it gets put together, it's a no-brainer.
It is a no-brainer. It's just the uncertainty for most people, right? So once I will achieve it, then I'll be able to share that with people. Once it's relatable, people get comfortable with it, I think we'll see more of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's, even the off-grid stuff, the Starlink internet, like working from home, all these ingredients are just changing economies pretty quickly, which is putting hopefully a lot less stress on the CBD areas and allowing people to go living a lifestyle they want, but still not compromise on the income. Yeah, they still have that ability, right? And I think that's been probably the biggest changer over the last 5 years, and I don't think that's going to slow down. No. Like reality is once you got economies growing, say let's pick on Tamworth, right? So I've got an investment out there, and that's exploding. Beautiful city. The only thing that doesn't have is obviously a beach, right? Coastal, but apart from that, it's affordable. It's got everything you need.
Country music festival.
Yeah, that's important. Hospitals and universities. It's just there, right? Yeah. So you're like, okay, well, you can get a home on a 700 square meter block, sub 700. It's like it's unheard of. You can barely get a unit in some metro areas, right? So people will make those shifts and changes, especially if they're I guess their employment allows them to work. Like most accountants can have the ability to work from home, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's some industries that are really thriving in that space. Others are a little bit different. Obviously, if you've got to be hands on, it's different. You're going to follow the construction space. You need to physically be there, or cars.
Being present, and I think, and I think working from home, and as I guess as our society start to feel like it's okay to start working from home, and if you have the ability, I think it's going to start becoming that flexible working space, and then it's not going to matter so much where people live. And I mean, I remember a few years back, you know, you got Armidale and Tamworth, and they were quite empty. But then Armidale's, you know, chucked out that really great uni out there, and that's gone up like nothing else. I was only at Tamworth a couple of weeks ago, and that's looking amazing. And I think that's going to go up super quick. There's a lot of pockets that used to be really like, oh, I don't want to go out there. And Gillaby as well. Like Gillaby's going, like, there's so many things.
We've got a client out there now, industrial space. Crazy.
Yeah, it's all starting to kind of develop. Like Logan Home in Queensland, that was a super sparse place.
Yep.
But now people are going there because, I mean, there was a low demographic there, but now they're starting to, you know, gentrification out there. Everybody's getting involved, and it's starting to get that uplift. People are moving to Queensland because it was a cheaper place to move to, and then people are starting to move out to the western parts of the state because it's cheaper.
Correct.
So I think there's some great stuff happening, and the more people start to spread out and go into these places and live in these 15-minute cities, it's going to, well, hopefully, probably not, but it would start to bring the Sydney prices down to a reasonable level, and Newcastle as a reasonable level.
Yeah, that's your idea.
Mate, well, thank you so much for coming out today, mate. Thanks for having me, mate.
Finally got it done.
It's been an awesome conversation, and mate, I've got a million questions, but as time goes on, I'll get you back in and we'll rip in.
Done, mate. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, mate. Thanks again, guys, for joining us on the lounge. Thanks, Eddie, for popping out, mate. I really appreciate it. And any questions, please feel free to reach out to Eddie or myself, and we'll answer anything that we can. Thanks for listening to this week's app of The Lounge. To make sure you don't miss out on the next episode, hit subscribe. We'd love to get the message out to more homeowners like you. Make sure you leave a rating and a review, and we'll see you on the next app.